Oh, Tesla is, she's not small. Yeah. I think she's like pretty much going to do that. I think so too. Which is a weird start. Like Western men's, I think they're very excited too. I do like Western. I really like my top choice, but I do love him. Yeah, I really love him. Yeah, he's a lot. I don't even know what you do with that size. He gets stuff in and around. Yeah, that's right. I just love the way that he does it. He puts his arms on his shoulders. The other one's around too. He waits. That's how he does it. It's scary. Here, when you send the traveler stuff, that BBC. Oh, he didn't say anything. He did, I didn't see him. I don't know, all I know is I think he meant like certain stuff on his video. That's how I just
Are you using it with an iPhone or something? Well, yeah, those are pretty good. Yeah, I mean, that's part of what we use those all the time. It's like places that we don't want to spend too much time. We have one of those attached to the wing of a World War II airplane like 3 weeks ago. It was flying over like and so we wanted to get some footage of that, right? And we were like, well, we're not going to run a camera. It just falls off. Who the hell knows where it is, right? So it's stuff on there. That's right. And you can buy, we use a lot of GoPro mounts because from like such good little tiny hardware. We use GoPro mounts all the time. We use them on race cars, out of racetracks, airplanes. I was surprised they don't work. I went to go see stuff we should know last night. It's private. Hello, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started if you guys are ready. Thanks for coming. So I know that getting downtown at 4 o'clock doesn't matter what day it is, getting downtown at 4 o'clock is not exciting if you're not already down here. So again, thank you for coming. My name is Ricky Holm. I'm the founder of a company here in Texas called Chocolate Milk and Donuts. We are a full-service creative agency, and so we partner with companies and advertising agencies to basically help them use emerging technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, 360 video. We help them use those in ways that make sense for their company and their brand. So basically, this is pretty complex stuff. We work with people to make it really easy and to make sure that it works well within their company, not just as kind of a shiny object, but as a real needle mover. So that's who we are. But enough about that. You guys didn't come here to hear me talk about that. We're here today to try and answer a simple question, and that is, what is virtual reality and these other forms of immersive media that people tend to kind of throw into the same bucket? So my goal with this kind of conversation today is that when everyone leaves here, they will be able to have intelligent conversations with people inside their organization, with their friends at the bar, or even with a potential client about these technologies and understand kind of some of the buzzwords and what all of this stuff actually means and what it's capable of. I will admit that this presentation is geared through the lens of a marketer or advertiser's perspective. That's a lot of the work that we do is in that space. So that's kind of how we think a lot about this. However, we'll get to a slide here in a couple minutes. I'm going to ask you guys some questions. Again, my goal is to make this presentation valuable for the audience. So if you are an educator, or you're in real estate, or you're in healthcare, and you want to ask a particular question that's not being answered in this presentation that's important to you, please feel free to stop me at any point and just go ahead and ask those questions. Because again, my goal is to try and educate you all on this technology. And so with that, let's dive right in. We're going to talk today about these technologies. We'll do a quick tech description to make sure that everyone is on the same page about what it is we're actually talking about. We'll talk very quickly about how these different technologies are built, how you distribute these experiences. So once you build that epic VR experience, how you get it out into the world. More importantly, once you get it out into the world, how do you make sure you can track it and make sure it actually helped your business, so the next time your boss comes around and asks you if you want to build another one of these, you can prove to him that the first one worked. We'll also go through plenty of different case studies and examples of how people are successfully using these technologies out in the marketplace today. We'll give you a couple of quick predictions on where we believe this is going to go in the near future, and we'll have plenty of time for questions. So, let's see, and I want, like I said before, this is kind of geared towards more of a conversation than I want to just stand here and talk at you. So I think it's important to understand who you're talking to. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me personally, just so you know who I am and might give you some context. So again, my name is Ricky. I grew up on a small farm outside Seattle. My dad's an entrepreneur. My mother's a school teacher. They're obviously awesome folks, because who else would dress up their son in a beer-branded sweatshirt for his kindergarten school picture? And so I went to, I shot my first film when I was about 13 years old, and have been absolutely in love with digital storytelling, or kind of storytelling through a lens, ever since. I combine that with, I'm a damn good problem solver, and so I use that passion for storytelling with a really good knack for solving problems to build our company. So we help people use these storytelling mediums to solve real business problems, and that's kind of what I do, and that's what I love. So I get to do that every day. But enough about me. I'm more curious to know about who we have in the audience. So normally we do this presentation for smaller groups, so we actually would go around individually. I'd love to get everyone's name and a little bit about your background, but we'll be here all afternoon if we do that. So just real quick, I'll do a couple show of hands. Who here has tried some kind of VR before? Okay, who here has tried virtual reality that's computer-based, so really like a high-end system like Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive? Great. All right, so give me some things that you guys are like passionate about, whether it's education or healthcare. Just throw some things out so I kind of know who's in the crowd. Who are we talking to today?
Marketing.
Real estate, marketing.
Architecture.
Architecture.
Retail.
Retail, okay, we got a couple of examples for both of you guys.
Industrial design.
Industrial design.
Healthcare.
Nice.
Education and
Travel. What was that, ma'am?
Education and industrial.
Education, okay. I think we're going to cover most of these, and again, if we get to any of these and you want a particular example, or if there's something I didn't cover, you can either ask me a question or please come grab me at the end. Great, thank you all for sharing. So let's get on with it. So I think that the term virtual reality in itself is very misleading and widely overused in media today. People use that as a headline grabber. They use it to describe a vast amount of different things, which can create a lot of confusion. And so what we really should be saying, instead of virtual reality, is we're actually talking about immersive media. And inside of immersive media are 3 separate technologies. And each one of these technologies is its own tool and has its own ups and its own downs. And those 3 technologies are 360 video and photo. We have actual virtual reality, and then we have augmented reality. And again, these are all built slightly differently, and they all have slightly different use cases. So we're going to go into detail on each one of these 3 technologies. All right, so we're going to start with 360 video. This is always the easiest for everyone to kind of wrap their mind around. So what exactly is 360 video? Well, it's just what it sounds like. It is like traditional video, but we're shooting video in a sphere instead of shooting video on a flat screen. Think about Google Street View. That's the simplest way to think about 360 photography. You can look around from any one point in space in any direction. You can view this stuff on pretty much any modern device, whether it's a mobile phone, a tablet, that laptop that Mark has on his lap, or even your computer at your desk. All of those devices support 360 video and photo, for the most part. This gives the user basic autonomy and basic interactivity. So not only, now we're giving the user the ability to look around at their own will. We can't now direct them to look right here in the front row. It's their choice if they want to do that or not. We can also create 360 content from live action. So whether we're recording a music show or a catwalk, fashion type thing in New York City, or you can build them out of animation. If you want to send somebody into the world of My Little Pony, which we may or may not have done at one point, you can also do that too, fully animated. And what's also really cool is you can now live stream in 360. So if you want to put somebody in a particular moment in time, for instance, at a live concert or at like a race out at the Formula One track, you now have the ability to do that across a couple of different mediums. So that's kind of an overview of what this technology actually is. A lot of people will call this VR or VR video, but really what it is it's just 360 video. That's kind of the simplest way to describe it. So who here has had experience shooting or creating some type of like digital content for film or photo shoots or kind of any design work? Okay, so the process of how you do most of that creative production is very, very similar across the 360 spectrum as well. You know, you start with that client debrief. What do we want to build? We go through, we make our plan in pre-production, we write our script, we make, you know, what are we going to actually film? We shoot it, we edit it, we do our audio and fine tune, and we send it out into the world. 360 video is done very similarly on that linear structure. However, there's three key things that you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about producing spherical or 360 content. And if you keep these three things in mind, you can save yourself a ton of pain later, and you'll get much better content as well. The first thing is we have to rethink how we go about placing our action. We like to say, consider the camera a character. Shooting 360 video is a lot more similar to staging an actual like Broadway show or a stage play versus filming a traditional video. Unlike a stage play in New York, for instance, the users, the audience, one, the actors are acting to the audience. Two, the audience has the ability to look wherever they want. And so each actor on stage, even though they might not be the main actor of the scene, they're always in character. They're always playing their role. And that same thing needs to be kept in mind when you're creating 360 video, even if it's for a real estate listing. If somebody's standing in the back picking their nose, we can see you. So you got to keep these things in mind. So the second thing you want to really keep in mind is that same point, is we see everything in 360. This creates a couple of issues you want to keep on the forefront of your mind. One is locations are key. Where are you filming is very important, and where your camera is placed within that location is also very important. You want to be aware of what's above you, what's below you, what's behind you, what's in front of you. The user is going to have the ability to see in every direction. So you want to make sure you place your camera in a place that's compelling and shows what you want to be seen. The next thing you want to keep in mind is the days of doing film production like this have basically gone out the window. Where do you hide your crew when you can film in all directions? I heard a story from a local producer friend of mine who was just filming some wild Mustangs in New Mexico, and he actually, in one of the scenes, I was like, dude, how'd you get that shot? Like, the horses are so close, blah, blah, blah. He was literally half buried in the dirt behind a piece of sagebrush that you can't see on camera. So anyway, just keeping that stuff in mind as you move forward is important to get good quality 360 content. Yes, sir?
One question I have is focus, that people might miss important things because they're looking the wrong way.
That's right. So as a filmmaker, it's up to you to, one, try and guide the eye of the user. You can do big animated arrows, look left, look left. I find that to be a bit of a cheat, if you will, right? It's not using the medium like properly. What we'll do is we'll make sure that the action of the film or the action of the scene helps guide the character. So for instance, we actually shot a virtual tour of the Capitol Factory about a year and a half ago. And so the main character, Desmond, as he's speaking to you, if he's going to talk about the great views out the window, he will slowly start to walk. The camera's where my laptop is. He will slowly start, we had him slowly start to walk, so now he's between the character, the camera, and the view. So as he's talking about the great views of Capitol Factory, he doesn't have to go, look out there, you're already looking that direction. So that's one way to do it, is making sure that your action aligns with what you want the viewer to see. The second, and another thing that's really powerful in 360 is spatial audio. We don't go into too much audio in this presentation because we could spend an entire 2 hours just talking about audio, sound, but audio cues are huge. We have the ability now to create spatial audio. So if you're watching something, and this is a great way to do like awesome jump scares and kind of like scary films, is you can actually make it sound like it's coming from different directions, or even use it as a reveal. So if the killer's been hiding in the attic the whole time and all of a sudden the floor creaks above you, that's the first time we've kind of been, our attention's been brought to that. That's part of the scene. So, answer your question? Great. All right, and this is the big one. This one I have seen by more people in the butt than anything else when it comes to creating 360 video. And you'll see a lot of traditional production companies say, hey, we can do your 360 video shoot, don't worry about it, we can handle it. Grill them on their stitching. And what do I mean by stitching? When we film 360 content, we're normally filming on multiple cameras simultaneously. Our custom rig that we use houses 6 4K cameras. We have one forward, one backward, one left, one right, one up, and one down. And so we film, all 6 of those cameras run at the same time. However, when we're done, we have 6 individual camera feeds that we have to turn into one beautiful panoramic shot. That requires what's called stitching. And it's a very complex process that takes a ton of time. And the reason I'm harping on this point is I've seen multiple times where people's first foray into 360 video either turns out poorly or they go way over budget because they underestimate how complex the stitching process is. As you can see on this screen, each one of these little green squares is a place that 2 photographs or 2 camera feeds overlap. Every time a camera feed overlaps, we have to go through and stitch manually each one of those overlaps. This has over 50 stitch points in it. This is a larger camera system than we normally use, but this is just to illustrate the point. That when you're stitching stuff, or when you're shooting 360 content, this part of the post-production, it's very time consuming and can really run up the cost if you're not careful. So just keep that in mind. Yes, sir?
Can you do a 360 video that's not fixed and is on like a drone?
Yes.
And like, does that amplify like how difficult it is to do this stitching process?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Vibrations are the worst. So like we shot in a helicopter, and we had to go, I mean, it was an absolute pain in the ass to stitch that because those micro vibrations, each camera's vibrating at just a slightly different frequency, and getting those synced up properly to like the microsecond was almost impossible. So you can see the stitch lines kind of vibrate and it just breaks the viewer's attention.
And also is audio separate from that? Because I know like the drones are like pretty
Yeah.
loud right now.
Yeah.
So it's just like you gotta get rid of that, number one.
Yeah.
And then
Yes. And so that's always audio is always troublesome if you're dealing with loud equipment. Some stuff, could you hold your white camera up for me? So this gentleman up front has got Samsung's new 360 camera. These are great. They shoot 4K. They're a great place to experiment and get started. You get it for $300, $350? Under $200. They've come down in price. These cameras will stitch automatically for you. So if you want to get started experimenting with this, taking pictures of your real estate listing, somebody said real estate, right here. These are a great place to get started. They work both on iPhones and Android. And so again, they'll do automatic stitching. We're kind of talking about high-end type quality content on this. So keep the stitching in mind. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a tactic that you can use to kind of like pad something between like drone coverage and others? Or?
So there's a couple of tricks, and this is something we'll do to hide the crew as well. So if we were doing a 360 scene of this room, which might be kind of boring because there's not much happening, right? Is we have the camera, let's say right here, and I'm over here talking to you guys and the camera's off to my side. There's nothing happening back here, right? And so what we would do is 2 things. One, we would hide our crew over here. So we'd have our sound guy over here, we'd have our lighting guy back here, pointing lights, whatever we had to do. And then when we wrap the scene, all right, cut, all the crew members run around to this side of the camera, and now we either run off some video or we take a picture. And so in post-production, we go back in and we blend those together. And that's right. And you'll do the same thing, we'll do the same thing to fix stitch errors. So if your main character walks from camera 1 to camera 2 in the scene, and there's a nasty stitch error that kind of, it basically makes your face look really like artifact or even like compressed and like kind of get weird all of a sudden. We'll go through and fix that in like After Effects, or we'll basically animate frame by frame. We'll animate that person's face back in. One frame, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
That's crazy.
So what you want to do when you're shooting 360 on a multi-camera system is be very cognizant of where those stitch lines are. Where do those 2 cameras come together? We'll actually tape them out on the floor once in a while, or even like mark them on walls, because it's easier to go back and erase that one line in post-production than it is to try and stitch an actor who performed their entire monologue standing with a stitch line right here. And so this will save your ass and make your content significantly better if you just keep your stitch lines in mind when you're filming. And you'll see a lot of people that ignore this. We helped the UN with a project, and the UN went out and found some amazing 360 shooter. He had no concept of this, and it like ruined the project. So it's really, really important to keep in mind is the stitching stuff. And this will eventually go away. So Google has an algorithm that you can actually upload your footage to Google's cloud system, and they'll stitch it. They claim it's automatic. They'll stitch it in like 24 hours and ship it back to you, perfect. But you can't access it. You have to be on Google's like preferred network. We've been filming for 2.5 years in 360. We still can't get into it. And you have to have the bandwidth. So if you're shooting on multiple 4K cameras, I have a friend here who shoots a lot of music shows. He'll go shoot 1, 2, or 3 hour long music set, and he'll have terabytes of data. I mean, how long does it take to upload 2 terabytes? I mean, it'll take 3 weeks, right, to upload it to a cloud. So there are solutions coming, but the standard way that it's kind of being done today, and probably for the near future, is kind of semi-manual systems. So, and it does about 80% of the work for you. It's that last 10% that you really have to go in and focus on yourself. So.
Which software do you use for editing this?
This you're seeing right here is called AutoPano, and it's by a company called Color, spelled with a K. This software suite is about $1,100, $1,000, something like that. And then we also use, for anyone who's video editors, we use Premiere, or the Adobe Creative Cloud. So Premiere Pro, After Effects, Color, all of the kind of, Adobe's just acquired a company that will make 360 video editing much better through the entire Adobe Creative Suite. So you can use it and take it right from Photoshop back in, and it's good. So, all right. So how do you distribute the stuff? How do you get the stuff out into the world? 360 video is great because you can distribute it almost anywhere. You can embed this stuff in your own website. You can put it on other folks' websites. There's some really great free plugins out there that allow you to put this almost anywhere on the internet. All the major social media channels in some form or another support 360 video. And then what's really great for any of the advertisers in the room, and I know we all hate pop-up ads, but ads aren't going away anytime soon. And so what we can do now is we can make more exciting ads, and we can actually create digital ads that use 360 content. And what's important is that they're now available to be pushed through what's called DSPs, or demand-side platforms, which is where anytime you get a little pop-up ad on your Facebook, and then all of a sudden it's the same pop-up ad when you're surfing the internet, and the same pop-up ad on your Spotify, those ads are populated through these platforms, and now you can create 360 ads, which are more engaging, and we're seeing much higher click-through rates from users. So if you're trying to get an innovative way to kind of get your brand out there, 360 digital ads are pretty sweet. So you can basically send this stuff out across all the channels. 360 video is an easy one to distribute. So, all right. So what about tracking and analytics? How do you make sure your product worked or your customers are actually watching this stuff? We can track you can track basically all the same analytics or KPIs, key performance indicators, on 360 video that you can with traditional video or traditional media. So how many views, how many engagements did you get, shares, where did your users come from? All the same digital kind of tracking analytics are available for 360. What's cool though about 360 is we can take that kind of a level deeper. And so on the right side of this frame, what you'll see is a 360 video that's been folded flat. So imagine how we look at a world map instead of on a globe. So we flatten that round surface out, right? So here, this is what's called a heat map. And so the users of this experience were most interested in this young girl who's the main character of the show and the steering wheel or dashboard of this car. So if this is let's say a Cadillac advertisement, well now you know that most of the people are interested in this portion of the car. That can be some really valuable data that you can't pull from a TV ad, you can't pull from a regular Facebook ad, etc. Well, now we know where those users are looking, which can create very powerful information and data depending on what you want this content to do for you.
Is that through
This is so that is just that's a YouTube screenshot, right? That's free through YouTube. Facebook has the same thing. Heat maps are now provided by both Facebook and YouTube. I think Vimeo does them as well. I haven't actually checked that. But there's also a really great company here, Capital Factory, by the name of Thrillbox, that has a white label kind of service that you can use for this, which is much more complex. If I told you that they just built heat maps, that would be an underservice to their platform. They take this idea and like put a 10x on top of it. So if you're really interested in tracking and analytics, those are the guys to talk to. All right, so where is 360 video going from here? So as most technologies, the hardware is getting better, the software is getting better, and it's all getting cheaper. So one of the big things with 360 video right now is you're stuck as like you're on the top of a pole. So you can look anywhere you want to look, but you're stuck in one place. You can look up, you can look down, but I can't actually move. And so when I move and I see images shift, it's called parallax, that's what gives us a sense of depth, and that's also what gives us a really high sense of presence. So we feel like we're in a space. Light field cameras, which is what you see here, is going to change that. And so right now we capture all the light comes through a camera through a lens and is focused down to one little flat sensor. And so we're capturing round content on a flat surface. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's how cameras work. What light field cameras do is they capture all of the light energy entering a given space from all angles. And so basically, it's very, very complex and it's still many years away, but what this will give us the ability to do is if you're now watching a 360 video, however big the camera is, so if the camera is 3 feet across, you will now be able to move your head up and down, left and right, up to 3 feet of space and actually be able to look around things, look under, look above. It's going to completely revolutionize the way that we tell stories and shoot video. Those are a ways out, but they're coming.
When do you expect that to come out?
So Lytro is the company that makes this camera. They have one. It works. The servers are the size of a small car, and they shoot, the data storage system that comes with them is the same size. So I don't know if this will never be consumer technology, but this will be like Hollywood 360 video technology. So when you're watching the next Game of Thrones and someone throws a spear at you, you'll actually be able to dodge it. Basically is like what this is going to give us the ability to do, which is going to be crazy, right? It's going to be an awesome way to experience content.
Is it also basically 3D?
So no, because 3D you're seeing depth this direction. What we're talking about is I can hide, I can do this to you. That's what we're talking about. And so that, just a little, Facebook has a camera that's actually going to do this. It's not through light field, it's kind of through just a special algorithm. What it does is it increases that presence. It tricks our brain one more level deeper into the thinking that we're actually in that scene of Game of Thrones. And so it's just kind of increasing the presence or the immersion of the technology. So this stuff, 360 video and photo is already the most prolific form of immersive media in the market. Last year, Google said there was more than 160 million apps pulled down through their store alone that had some kind of 360 content or technology in them. And I think it's going to continue to grow wildly. One of our clients is a local education company that builds software and stuff for elementary students. And anytime we do a demo of their 360 content in the classroom, the way that young kids engage with this content compared to 2D is phenomenal. We're having education lessons, and these kids are running around the rooms, sharing it with their friends. Hey, did you see that shark? No, I was looking at that octopus. And the way that kids engage with this content is mind-blowing. And so there's no doubt in my mind this will continue to grow in popularity. But with that said, and this goes for all of VR. Excuse me. I'm a true believer that VR, 360 video, AR, all of it, is not going to like make Netflix and chill type stuff go away. It's not going to kill TV between me and all of you. And I'll state that, whatever, right? Like, because this is an active medium. You have to be a participant in the story, right? You have to be active. You have to look around. You have to engage with it. When we get home from work, we want to lay on the couch upside down, have our dog sit on our chest, and throw popcorn in our mouth, right? And that is not what this medium is good for. So, yes, there will be a proliferation of this type of media across the content or across the kind of the world as we've never seen it, but it will be for certain use cases. This will not, I don't think this won't like Trump TV. Can we say that anymore? Can we use that? Yeah.
So do you think that there'll be a merger of 360 video and VR? Because like if you were able to render like not real virtual reality like the woods,
Yeah.
and it looked like exactly like the real thing, then why would you have to bother taking actual video and
Yeah.
putting it into
So,
a virtual
we already can. We already can blend the things. I'm breaking these three technologies up very specifically, so you just kind of, again, so everyone has a good understanding of what these technologies are. But you can blend these together, right? You can use a 360 video of downtown Austin and then put an alien battle in VR on 6th Street, right? We could do that. Some of the tricks with it is in virtual reality, we'll get to this, but you can move around. I can walk around. When you walk around in a single point 360 video, it starts to it's hard to explain, but it's like walking up to the edge of a rounded mirror, right? Like stuff starts to get weird because we're capturing all the content from this much space, and now I'm walking over here. So it starts to jack with perspectives and some things. That's one. The other thing is what's called the uncanny valley. And as humans, we are incredibly good at detecting fake things, especially human beings. It's a defense mechanism of ours. And so when we try and recreate humans in video games, the human mind is really good at detecting fake humans. Like everything from the way that I've had a long day, I've been up since 5 a.m., so my eyes are gonna probably start tweaking, it's gonna start to show. To get a computer program to recreate that well enough to trick our brains, we're not close.
Would you call it uncanny what?
On the uncanny valley.
So you think we're closer to getting the 3-foot wide camera than we are to
yes.
bridging this?
Yeah, and we can do, there's and then when we get to the VR portion, there's a quick kind of use case we go over where we talk about, it's in 2 slides, so we'll get there in a second, but we blend kind of 3D VR content with video as just an example. So yes, this stuff will keep going in the future. So let's see. All right, so let's talk about some quick use cases that we've seen. So travel and tourism. Somebody said that back here. Great use case. We actually just did a gig where we helped Qatar Airlines. They're redoing their website. This is Qatar Airlines. Their website's terrible, right? It's computer forward. Most people are shopping on their mobile devices now. And so one, they need to rebrand their website, and they're doing that so it's mobile first. And 2, there's kind of this thing where we have this destination anxiety, right? I mean, how many people go on more than 2 out of the country vacations a year? What the hell? I want to go with you guys. So the majority of folks, right, get to maybe go on one big vacation a year. Where are you going to go, right? There's thousands of different locations around the world that you can go choose and spend your 1 week there. And so what we did with Qatar is they have, they thought that there was a problem with their consumers where people actually would not purchase foreign trips to go to places like Bali or the South China Sea because they were anxious or they didn't know what they were going to expect. Because right here, you want to go visit this beautiful temple and stay in a little Airbnb that's right here. What's to say there's not a McDonald's on the other side of the road in a major highway, right? And so what we did is we shot a bunch of 360 content in the most kind of popular tourist attractions in this area that gave users the ability to look around and understand what they're really signing up for, right? Help bring down that anxiety of making that large ticket purchase. And it's a very mobile-friendly format, so that helped with that rebrand.
Just off the top of your head, are there any other tourism-related projects like that you can think of?
So I've seen a couple of different travel website type folks do this. Google's already kind of doing some kind of travel-y stuff like this. You can actually upload your own 360 videos or photos of tourist attraction type places in 360 to Google, which they'll give you perks if you do that. So found that out the easy way. But a lot of same kind of stuff. Basically, the way this is being used is go there, right? Check it out. It's a difference to see a couple of pictures on your screen versus actually looking around at what you're going to kind of get yourself into. So, yeah.
Are you crafting stories out of these projects, or is it more informational?
This one, no. We did an education project that was very similar in terms of the way we filmed. We wanted it to be passive, almost like a documentary style thing, where the camera sits. We went to Pakistan, and it was a project to show the rest of the world that the Middle East isn't all bad, right? There's actually people that live real lives, right, as a way to kind of break down cultural divides for this education company. And for that use case, it was set the camera in the middle of the street, and everyone who He's a tall, white, bald guy, run and hide around the corner because we don't look like Pakistanis. Go figure. And so for that, what we did is we did craft a story, right? We used a voiceover that helped guide the students, kind of give them, it wasn't, hey, look over there. It was look around and notice the things that might be similar or different to where you go to school. Because we filmed in schools and out on the street, right? And so that was kind of a story-driven piece, filmed the same way. This was more like click and look around, which we didn't have much say in that. You know, they were like, hey, we need 360. We just said, we'd love to help. Plus, we got to go to Indonesia. Side note, if you haven't been to Indonesia, do it. It's cheap, it's phenomenal, and they love Americans. All right, so another use case. Real estate. Great use case for 360 content. So everything from running around with a Samsung camera in a $250,000 house and you just want to pop some great 360 pictures up on your MLS listing to get people a better idea, to a more complex system. So there's kind of two issues with selling real estate. One, real estate doesn't move for the most part. The other one is a lot of folks, when they're trying to buy something sight unseen, they don't have the time or the money to go there. So if you're moving an entire family from LA to San Francisco, chances are you're not going to bring the entire kitchen sink and everyone out to just go house shopping. And so using 360 is a great way to give people a better idea of what they're actually looking at. Narrow that down from 10 houses to 3 houses. Let your son or daughter go actually look at what their new bedroom is going to look like. That's one example. And this is where we're talking about blending these two technologies together. And this is even a better, I think, use case. So this is a screenshot of the new independent tower that's going up right over there. And it's out somewhere. This is going to be the new tallest tower downtown Austin. These condos started selling, I think, a year and a half ago before the building even broke ground. You're going to spend $750,000 on a 27-story condo before the thing ever goes up. Do you want to spend that much money on this single picture or that single picture? I don't. And so with 360 video, what we've done in the past is you can take actual 360 pictures at different levels using drones. We blend that. This is, I don't know if it might be hard to tell in here, but these are 3D models of what these condos are going to look like. And so if you say, I want a northern-facing condo on the 27th floor, you can quickly go in and assemble what that actually looks like. The exact floor plan of what that condo is going to be, and then outside the windows, we drop that 360 shot from our drone that was actually shot at that 27th story elevation. And so now you can see what the view looks like from your new 27-story condo before this building ever even breaks ground. It's a great sales tool for properties that are being developed. So, all right, I'm going to keep moving. Go for it.
Are you using just video for these real estate things, or 360 like panoramic photography?
Both depends. So
when do you use one or the other?
It's a case by case. Normally, it depends on what the client wants. Most real estate, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do video. It's much more expensive to produce, and photography does the job. There are some folks who are doing this type of thing with VR where you actually can walk around in it, but there's some locomotion issues. So if you move in a VR headset, but your feet aren't moving, it can make you feel sick. And so you don't, especially if it's your first or like second time in VR. And so that is a bit of a tricky thing. But yeah, mostly photographs for real estate.
Also using Matterport is a good way.
Matterport does 3D scanning, but their software is pretty expensive, and they own your content. So that's a little bit tricky.
Is there been like quantifiable ROI on this? Like
I don't. So this is, we didn't work with Sotheby's on this. I was using this as an example, so I can't speak to what their user kind of pickup rate has been, but I see them in other real estate companies using it more and more.
Yeah.
So to me, that means that it's working. So.
So I was wondering, like, could you do that for floor plans and stuff too, like before it's built?
Yeah.
Like, how many images do you need to make it make sense?
So I'll give you an example of a project that someone hit us up 2 weeks ago, and they're trying to sell a lot that's been on the market for 45 days out in like the kind of hill country. And it's a beautiful lot, but from the pictures it looks pretty crummy, but it's got a great view. And so they sent us nothing more than a floor plan, literally like a sketch on a paper. It was like, this is what the owner of the lot had in mind. And we haven't heard back if we're gonna get the job yet, but what we suggested was, okay, and they didn't want to spend much money. So what we were going to do was take that 3D, that floor plan, we were going to do a rough kind of 3D model of what a house could look like on the property, make it kind of look pretty from the outside, and then take different 360 shots from around the property. So you could basically stand there and look around at different times of the day to see what does a 2-story house on this long skinny lot with a view facing west look like at sunset.
So I could take like the land shots and then work in a builder's home kind of like it's going to be in this property and do that.
And you can also buy, if the home itself isn't super important, it's more about like selling the vision of the lot per se, you can buy pre-made 3D assets online for like 25 bucks. Building 3D models is really expensive. And so that's kind of where it's tricky. If you're working with a spec builder or someone who has the 3D models in like a CAD program, we can take those for fairly cheaply and convert them into deep 3D assets to use inside of like.
Those already exist.
Yeah. So it's still not as easy as it sounds it should be. It's not as easy as like click and drag, but it's not that. So, all right, I'm gonna just move on because we have 40. I don't know how much time we have left. I don't actually know what time this ends, but we gotta keep moving. So hold on. If you have more specific questions, please keep them coming, and we'll just keep going forward. So this is a great example of a 360 interactive ad. This is actually one of the best, I think, 360 ads I've ever seen. It's still one of my favorites, plus I'm a bit of a car guy. So what BMW did is they took the concept of the classic shell game, right? I have 3 cups, I have $1 bill, we'll bet, if you guess what the dollar is, you get my dollar. If you don't guess right, I get your dollar, right? Classic kind of quick switch game. So what they did is they partnered with a model named Gigi, who is very eye-catching for their target demographic. Young single males that want a blue 2-door sports car. And so what they did is at the beginning of the ad, Gigi walks out and she winks at you and she says, "Hey, follow me." And so you pan as Gigi walks by and she sits down in one blue BMW M2. As soon as Gigi slams the door, you hear 4 other cars start. And behind that car, you couldn't see, but there was 4 other BMWs lined up that form a line in the middle of a airstrip. And as soon as those cars get lined up, they take off towards you. You and the camera start floating backwards as these cars start dancing around you. And you try and follow which car Gigi is in, right? So you're using your phone to chase which car, oh shit, where did she go, right? They're kind of hiding, get to the end of the runway, the cars line back up in an order, and then as it says there, you had to log onto this website for a chance to win whatever it was, to guess which car she was in. This was BMW's first foray into 360 video. They got over 500 million impressions. No, excuse me. Is that the right number? It is. 500 million impressions in 2 weeks on this thing across the web, and more than 33 million views on a YouTube video. This is an ad. 33 million views in 2 weeks on an ad. So, point of this kind of use case is when you use this medium properly and get people engaged with the content, this is an incredibly powerful form of media. So, great use case from BMW. This was their most successful digital campaign in the history of the company, was for the launch of this car. Okay, so that kind of wraps it up for 360 video. Now we're gonna move on to the big VR. So what is virtual reality then if it's not 360 video? So virtual reality is computer simulated worlds that are 3-dimensional and fully interactive. And so a good way to differentiate between 360 content and VR content is an analogy I like to use about riding a shotgun. So in 360 video, you're in the car, you're riding shotgun, and it's a fun ride. You're going around a racetrack at 200 miles an hour, but you're not in control. It's up to Dale Earnhardt. He's the one giving you the ride. So you're just along for that ride. In virtual reality, on the other hand, you're in the driver's seat. You have complete control over the experience. If you want to walk over and turn the engine off the car and decide to just get out and go walk away, you have the ability to do that in VR. If you want to put it in reverse and back up, you can do that. 360 video, you're along for the ride. VR, you're in control. VR experiences are 9 out of 10 times performed inside of a HMD or a head-mounted display, a VR headset. And this technology has the highest level of immersion that we have seen to date. So this tech has the ability to trick the human mind more than kind of anything else that we've created. So that is kind of what VR is. But it's not quite that simple when we go a little deeper. So there's 3 different levels of virtual reality. And it starts with the kind of the big high-end systems are the room scale systems, like the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. Those systems allow you to actually move around in virtual space by walking. Some of these will get up to about a 20 by 20 square foot space. Or as you walk in the real world, you actually move inside of the virtual world. And they can also track your hands. HTC also has these things called pucks now, where you can start to put those on different parts of the body. So if we want to track your knees, if we want to track a skateboard, there's some really cool sporting kind of things where they'll attach them to bats or tennis rackets. Now you can practice your tennis in VR, but that's room scale. The next kind of level down is what's console-based. That's basically just gaming, right? What that does is the same idea of VR, where you have a headset, you can move around, but it's in a much smaller space. It's basically anything you can do in a chair. It's the easiest way to think about that. So you can kind of move up, move down, but you can't get up and walk 15 feet that way in a console-based VR system. And then lastly, we have mobile-based. This has the largest adoption rate because it's the cheapest and easiest to get to the marketplace. But the ability for what you can build in mobile is significantly lower than what you can build on the other 2 systems. And that kind of brings us to the next slide. When you're thinking about using VR or experiencing some kind of VR, it's a bit of a trade-off between how large your potential market scalability is versus the level of immersion. And that, when you're thinking about building this is very important. Because if you're talking about healthcare and you're trying to train doctors on how to do heart surgery, the level of immersion and the level of quality is significantly more important than if I can distribute this out to 400 million people. And so when you're thinking about building these experiences, that is something you want to keep in mind. Now, we always suggest to folks that you build what's called a cross-platform experience, so it'll work on all 3 systems. However, that's expensive, and something will be limited. Whether you build it for mobile and push it upstream, or build it for the highest end systems and kind of push it downstream, your experience will really shine on the system that you focus on for the most part. So just something else to keep in mind. And here are some numbers that are fairly up to date. I just kind of pulled these about a week ago. These are the number of systems that are out in the marketplace currently, North America. These might actually be worldwide numbers. Either way, this is how many headsets are on the market. As you can see, significantly more mobile, and then you have a few million of the console-based systems and just a few million of the room-scale systems as well. So how do we make VR? It's complex. So for simplistic sake, the easiest way to think about building a VR experience is you're basically making a small video game. Don't ask me why this picture exists on Google, by the way. Don't know. So really, I mean, the simplest way to think about it is you start with a basic concept. What do you want to build? You sketch it out, you prototype it, right? What does the stick figure type kind of layout look like? You add your lighting, your texture, your interactivity. You build layer upon layer with this stuff, and then you deploy it out to the world. So again, we could spend the next hour just talking about how you actually develop virtual reality. But the easiest way for me anyway to keep it in mind is think about you're developing basically a very small video game. That's why you'll see a lot of video game companies and a lot of video game developers getting into the virtual reality market. So, and then if you've heard the terms Unity or Unreal Engine being thrown around in VR conversations, just a little side note, what people are referring to are those are the number 1 and number 2 softwares out in the world that allow you to build VR experiences. They both have been migrated over from the game world, but Unity is Unreal free, but I know Unity is now free. So if you want to play around with it, it doesn't require any prior programming knowledge, and you can download the software and start building VR experiences for free on Unity and actually export builds. You can't start making any money yet, but you can use the software for free. It's very, very good software.
What was the other one called? Unity and?
Unity and Unreal. And it's actually Unreal Engine or Unreal Engine 4 or 5. Yeah, 4? Yeah, they're on 4 right now. And they both have their ups and downs. But we can spend. Apparently, the UT bike auction just started. Google Calendar wants everybody to know. The UT bike gets UT in the next 2 hours. All right. So, how do you distribute this stuff? This is one of the biggest kind of bottlenecks for virtual reality currently, which will change. But There's just a couple of options. For the room scale systems, you basically only have two options. One, you can go through their marketplaces or their stores. Both the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive both have their own marketplaces. Like, this is a shot of the Oculus home store. So it's just a room you go into in VR and you can buy your experiences. But if you're building something, this is really the only way you can get it out into the public. The second thing is to do activations, right? So you build an experience like Mountain Dew did, and you go create a huge waiting line down at South by Southwest for your experience, right? You go to conventions, you go to trade shows, etc. You create your own audience. You take the experience to them. Those are kind of the only two ways you can currently distribute high-end virtual reality, which makes it a sticky selling point if you're talking about putting $500,000 into your first experience, which isn't out of the question for a budget. And so console units, very similar to a video game. You pretty much can either buy them through their web-based platforms, which just downloads it to your box, or it can be part of another video game. Again, the console-based VR applications are almost strictly focused on gaming currently. But when we start to look at mobile-based VR applications, and this can be really interesting for training, for healthcare stuff, for education, for real estate, the mobile marketplace is obviously significantly larger, and you can distribute these experiences through a standard mobile app. All the major mobile app stores will process applications that have VR in them, so Apple will actually push it through, same with Google, and you can send them through the web. So we've seen a lot of success with people building very light VR experiences that they distribute through internet connections. So that's going to change, and we'll talk about this in a little bit in the future, but something called Web VR is going to, I think, revolutionize the way that we're able to take advantage of these technologies.
Is there like an EA kind of, not that as big as them obviously, but like group that's kind of leading the pack right now?
For
with
what?
games, with gaming?
For VR games?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a gamer per
okay.
se, and so I don't know if there's a particular studio. What a lot of people are doing, which is kind of a gift and a curse, because the market for VR is fairly small still, in terms of high-end stuff. Video games are incredibly expensive to build, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars they spend to build like a new Batman video game. But there's hundreds of millions of consoles across the world, so they can make their money back at $25 a pop or $50 a pop. With only less than 2 million systems, it doesn't make sense for a game studio to build a $25 or $10 million VR experience that they can't make their money back on. So what we're seeing is a lot of these big video game studios release, like Batman Arkham was kind of an example of this. That was a new video game that came out. Huge buzz for the VR experience. Because they knew they weren't going to make their money back on it, the VR experience sucked. Like, it wasn't good at all. And so it left a bad taste about the medium. A lot of people said, oh, VR is dumb. VR, I don't want anything to do with it, because that video game studio chose to make a business decision, which makes sense, and build a crappy experience kind of as like a VR for PR play. And so we have to be careful when especially companies that have that loud voice. We see this more and more, where they don't think about kind of the consequence of that, but I don't want to go so much, so we'll leave that. So, all right, so anyway, distribution of virtual reality is tricky. Think about this ahead of time to really make sure that you know what you're getting into if you're going to put a lot of money into your VR experience. If you have a target audience, it can be incredibly powerful. UPS is now training all of their drivers with virtual reality before they ever set foot in a truck. Obviously, if you're a UPS driver, you're going to be at UPS. So for them, distribution isn't an issue, right? So just think through that kind of stuff. All right, so one of the biggest complaints that we hear about virtual reality is that it's just for, it's a one-man or one-woman thing. It's for the gamer that lives in his mother basement at 35 years old. And I would say that that's absolutely not true. I think that either like multiplayer and mixed reality, so when you have multiple people involved in a VR experience, it's actually better than if you do it by yourself. And there's two main ways that that's being done currently. The first is what's called mixed reality. And basically what mixed reality is it gives you can see a shot right here of his friends on the couch. It gives us the ability as outside users to actually see what our friends or coworkers are doing in virtual reality space. This is a combination of technologies, but instead of just seeing your friends swinging aimlessly in the air, you can now watch them actually fight aliens and see what they're seeing. So it's pretty cool stuff. This requires an exterior camera and a green screen, but it's really awesome. And actually, I've seen a demo where they're using Apple's new AR kit that it doesn't require a green screen at all. So, but we'll get to the AR in a second. And the other thing is social VR. That's going to be phenomenal. Who goes to meetings at work? That's a silly question. Everyone's going to raise their hand. It's just getting to that time of the day. Who here would not mind having a meeting on the edge of the International Space Station? Because that is what's possible with social VR. You can actually do this now. So with the current technology, if you have a team spread out across the world and you need to have your Monday morning meeting, you can literally have it on the edge of the International Space Station in VR, which is awesome. So social VR is going to be huge. There's been some major movements in the last kind of 2 weeks in that space. Microsoft just acquired the largest player in the social VR space earlier this week. No, it was late last week. And Facebook actually has a live version of this now where you can go into social VR atmospheres directly on your Facebook feed through your VR headset. So, and I think we'll see more and more of this as we move forward. All right, so tracking and I'm going to go kind of quick because we're almost at an hour and I don't want to put you guys to sleep. So tracking and analytics in VR is very similar to what we discussed in 360 video. We can track all the standard stuff, views, how long were people in the experience, all of that stuff. What's great about VR though is we can take that heat map concept one level deeper. Now we're not just able to track what direction people are looking, but we can actually track what people are interacting with. Again, in an advertiser's eyes, if you're trying to sell more Swell bottles, and we know that 9 out of 10 people interact with this Swell bottle when it's wood grain versus when it's pink, we can start to pull a lot of data out about that user, about that product, etc. We can also start to gain direct feedback, and that's kind of what I was referring to. In VR, we can actually go interact with things. So if we see someone going and grabbing the steering wheel of this car in every experience, we can start to deduct information from that. We're starting to see some really crazy studies about emotional responses people are getting from VR experiences. And I think this is more important in a context of training and healthcare applications than it is in like an advertising. This technology has the power to help people. We've already seen success with helping our military get over symptoms of PTSD, curing people of fear of heights, social anxiety. Lots of pretty heavy stuff is being cured in a completely consequence-free environment of virtual reality. With that said, as content creators, we need to be careful. This is a very powerful technology, and anytime you kind of create a new power, there's always a negative force to that, positive force. So we want to make sure that we're building, being conscious of what we're building, right? So people have these fears of these dark, deep, like VR is gonna make us all plug into a machine, man. It's a matrix. It's like, well, that's possible, I guess, but we have to be careful, right? As content creators, we need to be conscious of what we're building because it's very, very powerful technology.
So how is that tracked though?
It depends, right? Tracking that is a lot of time done with feedback, follow-up, biofeedback, which they're actually like, we'll put sensors in your body. There's a company now working on technology that can read the electronic energy in your ear, which they can deduct a whole ton of crazy stuff from just by understanding the electrical waves that are traveling in and around your ear. And so that'll be done just like through your headphones. So this is all pretty early stuff, but if you're thinking about it from a healthcare perspective or a training perspective, you can really get deep. There's actually a company that's doing some amazing stuff with concussion protocols. So in the NFL, concussions are a big deal, right? But they have really, really expensive doctors, and probably way too many of them, standing on the sidelines being able to help these overpaid, massive human beings. But what about the kid that's playing Texas and football in West Texas, and Jim Bob is his coach, who didn't even make it through high school, right? Those are the people that get more affected by concussions than the pros do. And so there's a company that's building a small, lightweight VR headset that can diagnose concussions at like a 95% accuracy in just a few minutes. And so now we'll be able to use this technology to put basically a concussion specialist on every sports field in America, right? That's the kind of thing that's going to be awesome. And we can do that through some more like eye tracking and biofeedback mechanisms that we add to headsets.
So VR really, when did it really come out? Like 2007, 8, 11?
Yeah.
It's been around.
It's been around.
So my question is, I remember even seeing like a virtual reality conference where you're actually going through a trade show type of conference, right? And you're walking through, then you see your Starbucks and you're this, right? what in your opinion do you think is its comeback? Is it just, do you think that
You mean the future of VR?
Okay. Well, like why
sorry,
then?
you set that up for me too
Great,
well.
that's what I do. But really from then, and then it's kind of just been on the, under the radar and kind of doing its thing, and then now here, how it's everywhere,
Yeah.
picking up. Where do you think that gap, like what made it come back?
The biggest catalyst was Facebook's purchase of Oculus.
Okay.
So they overpaid by a long shot, $2 billion for a company that hadn't really even produced a real product yet. Now, Zuckerberg is obviously a very smart man because Facebook is one of the wealthiest companies in the world, right? And so that brought it into the limelight, and it made all the tech folks of the world kind of go, whoa, okay, what is this?
Okay.
That's, I think, one. That's kind of a social opinion.
Makes sense.
What's bringing it around now, and this is kind of what this first portion of this slide talks about, is the technology is getting so much better. It's getting lighter. All of the issues that were causing nausea, and making people have upset stomachs and all of this stuff is basically been eliminated. We figured out scientifically what was causing that. The quality of the experiences are getting significantly better because we're learning how to use it properly. For instance, I'll get to this, but this military trainer that a guy built down in San Antonio is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I think that just the quality of the experience, the fact that they're comfortable, is what's bringing it back around, and it's getting cheaper, right? I mean, all the major headsets have dropped in price and continue to drop in price quarter after quarter as they, as economies of scale and other things start to kind of play.
Good.
So with that, yes.
Real quick.
You guys are a great crowd, by the way. I never get this many questions. I love this.
What's the situation where you need the green screen?
That's called mixed reality. You also hear it called MR. And basically what that does is it allows, so right now, if we could plug VR into a computer and you would see on this TV what I see, right? Which can be, I'm doing this and like chasing aliens, like everyone in the crowd is like, well, this is kind of annoying, right? What mixed reality does basically is instead of you seeing my vision, it basically creates like a God's view camera. And so now you're seeing me from behind. So you're seeing me like fight the aliens and like dive on the ground and all this, but it's just like a nice stable camera over here, or like a Hollywood movie, watching you from a distance, but we can see you in the virtual space, and we can layer you in depth.
Watching me
Yeah,
have the experience.
but we can layer in depth. So if you see here, there's stuff behind him. See that? Or this is not that. Where's a good shot of it?
There's people in there, yeah.
But in this shot, you can see that there's 3D assets behind him.
Yeah.
So like in mixed reality, you would actually see this digital asset go behind me. So it tracks me in space relative to the virtual environment. This is great for arcades, for education, for training, right? You can sit back and watch, like, why does Frank keep driving the UPS truck off the road, right? And like everyone can sit back and kind of watch him from an outsider's perspective versus seeing Frank just watch the windshield wipers go back and forth.
What did you mention about Apple doing
Yeah,
something
yeah.
with
So right now it requires a
green screen?
A green screen, right? Green screen technology is how most Hollywood movies are made. What it does, what Apple AR Kit, ask me that in a couple minutes. It'll make more sense after we figure it out.
Sure.
So where are we going? What's coming with to your question, man, some of the things that are coming soon, HTC's next version of the Vive will not have cables. So all high-end VR systems are currently tethered to a computer. You're literally dragging a cable behind you as you walk around. The next version, which is already out now in China, is the same quality of VR experience, but there's no cables. It wirelessly talks to your computer with zero latency.
It's a high quality VR experience.
Yes,
Like
same. It's better actually. I
Wow.
believe that the quality of that is better than the current HTC Vive.
Okay.
What they had to get rid of was the latency. Because with your eyes, if what you see doesn't match with your head, it makes you sick. And so that latency has to be down to like the microsecond.
When's the best time to buy hardware? Will that come
HTC is the first US-based VR producer to get access to the Chinese market, because China's very tight, right, and letting outsiders come in. So they're focusing on that because the growth of VR in the Chinese market is huge. Which if you're a content producer, the Chinese culture loves America. They like to travel here, they like to come to college here, and they're huge on VR. And so there's going to be, if you can figure out how to get into that market, there's a huge opportunity to create Western kind of culture-based content, and you can get into the Chinese market because they're massively adopting this even faster than we are. So coming out this holiday season, you only see 3 of them here, but 6 of the major PC manufacturers have partnered with Windows 10 and are going to be releasing their under sub $300 high quality VR headsets. And with a new Windows update in a few months, you'll be able to plug this $300 headset into any Windows computer that's VR capable, aka it needs a pretty good graphics card. You'll be able to experience almost anything on Windows in VR. I think this is really going to open the doors for commercial applications. I mean, how many people here have developers and they're always like, I need more monitors, I need bigger monitors. It's like, if you're going to have a VR headset, your monitors can be as big as you want them to be. So I actually had a friend that was joking about he has all these, you know, they actually are in that building. It's like, we pay for these fancy views and all my developers come in and shut the blinds in the morning. It's like, yes, sir?
Do you know the PC requirements you need in order to use those Windows 10 applications?
I don't know them off the top of my head, but basically you need it's the graphics card, the GPU. That's normally, like that's why there's not, currently I don't think there's a single off-the-shelf Mac product that supports VR, because you can't change the graphics cards out on Mac. They're hardwired into the boards. The new Mac Pro,
iMac Pro.
The Tower might do it, but I don't think the new iMacs and stuff will support it. Because basically you need a fast, all the processing is done real time in the graphics card. So you just need a badass graphics card. Is pretty much it. I mean, you can't have a 10-year-old
because
computer.
I mean, I know for games and some other 3D things, it does require a lot.
Yeah.
But for those pretty basic Windows applications,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I mean, a lot of people I guess don't have that.
You're right. You're right. So that's great. That mobile's one, right? So that's an option. The other thing is technology obviously improves all the time, right? When I got in this industry 3 years ago, VR-ready computers were $4,000 to $5,000 and like $7,000 for a laptop. You can now buy a VR-ready laptop for like $500, $600. So, and again, in a few years, it's coming down significantly in cost, right? And we're getting better at making the experiences lighter in terms of they don't require as much computing power to run. And so we'll see a convergence of all this. And I think all VR will be mobile in the future. You'll be able to snap everyone will have one of these headsets laying in their house. You'll take your iPhone 14, you'll drop it in there, and you'll go visit your grandma in New York without ever, changing out your underwear. So it'll be cool. All right, and so the other thing we were talking about earlier was the web VR. This is also something coming with, basically what web VR in its simplest form will do, will allow anyone that has a $300 headset and a high-speed internet connection to experience high-quality VR anywhere in the world in real time. So if you want to go and play Halo with 15 of your friends and actually go inside of Halo, all you're going to need is a $300 laptop, an internet connection, and one of these VR headsets. Because it's all run kind of on the cloud through high-speed internet connections. All of the major players in web have agreed to standards on this about a year ago. Has it been that long? And so web VR works. It's being kind of run by Mozilla. They're the ones leading the forefront, but it's a bit clunky, and you can't run real high-end experiences over it yet. But that's coming, and that will change the game. Give it a year or two. It's going to be more of a we need faster internet actually than we need anything else to make web VR really sing.
Does this one specifically, could it potentially cannibalize like the actual systems, the hardware and whatnot, because you don't really need all that stuff anymore? So I mean, would you say like in the next 5 years or?
Yes, I think it's going to be a convergence again. I think it's going to be, by the time that mobile devices keep getting faster, VR keeps getting easier to work, and as we get like 5G, some of these other faster wireless networks, you won't even have to plug into anything. Again, you'll just drop your cell phone in, and they have room inside-out tracking for mobile devices that actually works, which means you can't really buy them, you have to build them, but there are systems now that are complete standalone systems that do room scale tracking. So like a VR HTC Vive, you have to put sensors in a room so it knows where you are.
When you say drop your cell phone in it though, you're saying like does actually put the cell phone in there, but would it be able to actually go just through your cell phone 5G to, then you're watching like on a Vive?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, this is what happens when you work Capital Factory and you run up against the clock. So, all
Sorry.
right, let's keep going. So, they're not going to come kick us out, and if they do, whatever. If you have to leave, by all means, please go. So we'll go through some of this stuff quickly because I just want to hit AR so you guys have a full picture, and then we can go deeper. So, Volvo did a fantastic virtual reality test drive. This campaign, they ran for 2 weeks. Long story short, they got 51,000 new customers reaching out to Volvo directly, asking for more information on new vehicles. Great use case for them. Another great one is HBO used VR combined with some live action actors to promote their new Westworld show. This VR experience did so well at like some of the big tech conferences like TechCrunch and some of these other huge kind of festival type situations. They had people waiting in line overnight to do this experience. And again, it's an ad for a TV show. People are sleeping outside of like conference centers to check this thing out. But they combined VR with these actors that are actually playing characters from the show. So you walked up to this booth that looked like the Westworld business inside the TV show, and they wouldn't break character. Hello, welcome to Westworld, sir. Are you ready to go in? And you'd be like, oh, what? No. Like, and they didn't break character, so it got people intrigued. And so more people would come over, and then you'd go like sit in this waiting room. You like did this whole thing, and then you actually got to go into VR and experience what Westworld was actually like. So if you've seen the show, this kind of makes sense on how they promoted their TV show with this, but phenomenal. Westworld was the most successful series premiere of any TV show that HBO's ever produced. They had 12 million average viewers weekly or something on season 1, and that was the most they'd ever done. So, all right, AR. This is the last one. So this is the third technology. So what is augmented reality then? Well, what augmented reality is basically we are superimposing assets, digital assets, over the real world in real time. We can do sound, video, graphics, animations, etc. You can interact with these components. So as you see on the top, this gentleman with his HoloLens is capturing aliens, which if you ever have a chance to play the HoloLens, play that game. It's super awesome. And then on the bottom, you see an example of AR Core, Google's new AR platform that allows you to hang out with this thing that looks strangely like the paperclip from Windows 95 in your office. And it's real time, it's active, and it's yeah. So for the rest of this presentation, there's two sides of, excuse me, I'm trying to rush, forgive me. There's two levels of AR. There's premium AR, which is like Microsoft HoloLens, which is what this guy's wearing, and then there's mobile-based AR. Runs on your mobile phone or on your tablet. For the remainder of this presentation, unless I specifically state, I'm referring to mobile-based AR. One, these are incredibly expensive. They start at $3,500 and go up from there. There's very few things you can do on them, and they're even harder to develop for. So chances of you finding a practical application for a HoloLens are really slim. You can start using AR on your mobile device when you walk out of here. So we're going to focus on that. And it's a hell of a lot easier to build and develop for. Okay, so how do we actually build this stuff? What we're doing in its most simple form is we're combining two separate technologies. First one being, we're using what's called tracking, spatial tracking, in the sense, we're tracking this gentleman's face. And so you can see what we do is we create a point cloud over certain points of an object, and we can track that in real time. And then we're basically blending that with 3D models. That's the simplest way to think about how AR is made. We can track other things besides faces. We can track 2D objects, we can track 3D objects, and we can even now start to track a room from multiple angles, and then we can reverse kind of engineer that mathematics to get distances. That's something that we're just able to now start doing with ARKit and AR Core, which you'll understand what those two things are here in just a second. So that's basically how we make AR, is through a blend of those two technologies. We're tracking stuff, we're adding digital assets on top. When you want to distribute AR, there's basically two options. One, mobile apps. Inside of a mobile app is the easiest way to distribute an AR experience, especially if you already have a user base on your mobile app. That's how 9 out of 10 AR experiences are going to be distributed, is through a mobile app market. Both of the big players will push your app through no problem. The other one is the internet. If you have a good enough, you can distribute these experiences through the web, and I'll give you an example of one that we're currently building that actually leverages web technology. And then, side note, there's two other kind of small outlets. All three of these social platforms, Facebook, Instagram and Snapchat all have their own kind of custom AR software. So if you really wanted to build an AR like face face filter or some kind of like branded thing that specifically lived on one of these channels, you could do that. But I know that Snapchat won't talk to you unless you're willing to have a minimum of 6-figure ad spend. So unless you have 250 grand just to promote it on Snapchat, they won't even pick up the phone. And I haven't we don't know what Facebook's is yet. They haven't really released that. So, and then you can do custom stuff. Like we're going to build a TV into a display. So when you walk up with this bottle, you can hold it in front of the TV and you can like select what it looks like in real time and see it on the TV. You can do sort of custom applications as well. But mobile apps and the internet are the two big. All right, so tracking and analytics, very similar to before. If it's done inside of a walled garden of like, this is a Facebook filter that Gatorade did. If it's in Facebook, you can track all the same analytics on this that you can on any other piece of content on Facebook. And same, obviously, if you own the content, you can track all this stuff through your own application as well. What's really cool is we're starting to see the ability to do like direct impact on sales type tracking. So this is an AR experience on the right that Sephora has. And what it actually does is allow you to try on makeup in real time on your phone by just basically taking a selfie of yourself. And it's video, so you can move and it's creepy how well that works. I've tested it. Like, it's a good thing I had to see it work. And so what's cool is like Sephora now can start to get data that they never had access to before, right? And so if I've looked at 4 different colors of lipstick, I went back and forth between 2 or 3 different kinds and then picked the second one. Sephora now knows like, ooh, next pop-up ad you get on Facebook is for that other one you didn't buy, right? And so that's data that we've never had access to before. Thinking about this ahead of time when you're building your AR experiences or talking to your developer or your team about it, those are the things you want to think of ahead of time. Think outside the box. What can we start to track? And that goes along with what I call hard data as well. So we'll talk about this in just a minute, but we built an AR experience for a weightlifting company that helps them measure hand sizes for weightlifting gloves. They're one of the leaders in the weightlifting space, one of the leaders in the weightlifting category for gloves, whatever. And so what we've done is now they're able to not only know, okay, we sell more mediums than we sell anything else, but now we're actually able to tell them, yeah, you sell more mediums, but did you know that 95% of your customers that buy a medium actually have a 7.5-inch hand, and your gloves are an 8-inch cut? What if you were to reduce that? Not only would you save fabric and cut your costs, but your gloves would now fit your consumers better. This company has no idea what size the actual hands of their consumers are, right? All they know is they sell a shitload of medium gloves. So that's the kind of data. Sorry, it's getting late. And so anyway, that's the kind of hard data that you can start to pull out of these augmented reality applications that has never been available before, especially not remotely. You know, if you're going to go around and measure all your customers' hands, sure, but that obviously isn't a practical application. All right, so where is AR going? Just in the last couple of months, 3 of the largest technology companies in the world have released their own AR softwares that have brought the barrier of entry down for developing this stuff. Facebook has a beta software out. It's like an invite only, but it works really good. We've tested it. It allows you to build AR applications right inside of your Facebook page. So now if you have 500,000 followers on Facebook and you want to allow them all to dress up like the creepy dude from Game of Thrones with the whatever frozen face, the cold god guy?
Night King.
Night King, thank you. I know it's like 7 out of 10 of us in this room watch that show. And so they had a Facebook filter that came out the week before the season premiere where you could turn yourself into the Night King, right? So super cool stuff. AR Core and AR Kit are basically identical softwares. AR Core is for Android, AR Kit is for Apple. Those are software platforms that allow developers to just brought the barrier of entry down. They built really complex algorithms. They give them to you for free. They want you to go out and build really cool stuff with them. We saw some prototypes of the next Amazon Alexa. And this we think is maybe a year or 2 out. We're going to start to see this technology built into other pieces of hardware outside of like the mobile space. For instance, we saw a rough prototype, at least we think that's what it was, of the Amazon Alexa that's going to have an AR camera built into it. So now when you're shopping on Amazon and you want to buy that really awesome ugly sweater for the Christmas party, you just go stand in front of your Alexa and say, hey Alexa, what size am I? And she goes, well, you ate too many cookies this year, you're an extra large now. And now you know what size sweatshirt to buy, right? Those are the types of things that are going to start to happen with this technology in the next year or two. And then maybe 5 to 10 years out, things are going to start to get a little weird in my opinion. We're going to be able to use this technology to augment our daily lives. So imagine going on a date, your glasses, and we're not talking about these big ugly HoloLenses. We're talking about something that's sexy, something that's light, something you only have to charge every few days, that makes your phone calls, and it also, when you go on a date, will be able to scan the person sitting across from you, tell you how compatible you are. It's going to tell you that she has a boyfriend on Facebook. It's going to tell you all sorts of crazy things. That is what this technology is going to get us to. I think that this will probably replace cell phones at some point. Probably not 5 years though. It's a ways out, but people are working on this, and it works. It's pretty crazy. If you haven't heard of a company called Magic Leap, keep an eye on them. They're doing something pretty crazy.
Magic Leap or Leap?
Leap. Magic Leap. They've raised however many hundreds of millions of dollars. How much is it now? 500 million? Yeah, 500 million. But something like that. Never showed a product. But basically, they've, through the patent office, we've seen something similar to this that will have a cable that connects to your phone. You'll be able to start doing this type of crazy augmented reality in the near future. So, and there's obviously practical applications to it as well, not just going on dates with people that already have boyfriends. All right, so what are some practical use cases of this technology right now? IKEA has been one of the leaders in the AR space since 2014. And so this is a great example of an AR app. It's a bit heavier, it requires a bit more bandwidth and a bit more processing power. So IKEA's had this technology inside their mobile app since, I said, like mid-2014. So there's a couple of issues. I asked someone this question, I was like, what's the worst thing about IKEA furniture? Putting it together. I was like, oh shit, you're right. So the other bad thing about buying furniture is that, one, is it going to fit? Right? Don't know. 2, is it going to look good in my place? And so versus going through IKEA and fighting through the store on a Saturday, you can now take your mobile phone or your tablet and see what IKEA furniture looks like in real time in your home, apartment, or office. You can download this app right now and start buying furniture directly from IKEA through this app. Super cool technology, and it works great. Okay, so this is the app that we recently just built for Harbinger, who again is a weightlifting company. So Harbinger had a problem with, most people don't know, like, I wear an extra large in everything, right? So when it comes to gloves, so I just assume I'm an extra large. Well, I order these gloves on Amazon, they come to my door, they're way too big because weightlifters are big burly dudes. I'm actually a large in weightlifting gloves. I send them back, doesn't cause me any pain, I have to wait a few extra days, but now Harbinger just got a negative check on their Amazon account because they had another product return. And so this became a big issue for them. And so what we did is using computer vision and AR technology, we're able now to, with nothing more, and this is live through the internet, you don't have to download anything. So when you're shopping, Amazon won't let us put it on Amazon, but that's okay. If you're shopping for Harbinger gloves on their website directly, all you do is touch a button that says size my hand, your camera turns on, you scan your hand, and we tell you with a 95% accuracy what size you wear in men's and what size you wear in women's, all through the web. So super cool technology, and this is something that we're building currently, right? We're 95% of the way done with this. We're just fine tuning it as we speak. So this is all stuff you can do today.
Talk with Tony Shea, for example.
Feet are totally different than hands. By the way, hands are so complex, it blew my mind. I've never taken so many pictures in my life. All right, and so one last quick use case is Nike did a great job of leveraging the Facebook AR platform when they came out. One, they had early access to it, but it still doesn't negate the fact that they did a really good job of using this technology. So, you know, a lot of folks in the work, you know, that are kind of, you know, workout focused, they like to share their progress with their friends, right? Hey, I lost an extra 5 pounds, I ran that 8-minute mile, whatever it is, right? That's a very social kind of activity that we do nowadays. And so what Nike did is they basically made that easier. Partnering with Facebook, they built an AR application that not only allows you to share your post-run selfie with your friends, It also tied into your Fitbit and gave you direct information automatically about your most previous workout. And of course, Nike had to throw their little brand recognition in there. But just a great example of how you can start to think about using these technologies like Facebook and Snapchat have available for your brand. Facebook's going to be a lot easier to work with. Snapchat, again, they require a huge media spend. So a great example on Nike here. And so, only 25 minutes over. That's it. Just a few takeaways to kind of recap. We talked about 3 different technologies. So when people say, we want to do VR, you can be the smartest person in the room and say, now wait a minute, what do you actually mean by that? 360 video, virtual reality, augmented reality, 3 separate tools in your toolkit that you can start thinking about having to use today. Think about what makes sense for you and your company, right? These are different tools, they have different use cases that make sense. Really take the time to think about what makes sense for you and what really can help move the needle. If you take the time to do that up front, these will be much more successful for you in the long run. I'm just going to harp on this one last time, 360 video. If you're going to start there, again, it's the easiest way to get into this medium. Don't forget about the stitching. Don't do it. If you work with a company that just says, oh, don't worry, look under the hood of that statement. This is a really complex thing that will ruin your video. And then get the conversation started early. These are complex technologies. They're always changing. Talk to your developers, talk to your contractor, talk to the company you work with. Get that conversation started early. If you go and try and build some cool AR thing a month and a half before South by, it's not going to happen. It's going to be really expensive. It's not going to be very good. Get that conversation started early. And lastly, a lot of people think this stuff is way off in the future. I like to say the future is now. As you can see, all the examples that we showed today are things that either have been built or are being built as we speak. You can start leveraging the power of these technologies today. So that's it. If you guys have any more questions, now's the time. There's our website if you want to check out the work that we've done. Again, my name's Ricky, and so, or if you want to leave, it's 5:30. Enjoy your evening. So, thanks everybody.
You had mentioned to bring back up the Apple.
Okay, so how we were saying that Apple AR, basically you're laying digital assets over the real world, right? And VR, we're kind of putting that magic blindfold over people's eyes. What currently with mixed reality, you have to shoot with a camera, have the person stand in front of a green screen, and then you use technology to swap that green screen out for what the video game player is actually living in. With ARKit, which is Apple's AR technology, we can do that now, so everyone in here can have their own AR app and watch the person from their own angle, and it would use AR technology to swap in the background instead of green screen technology.
You would just use your phone, they would all be looking at your phone.
Everybody would have their own viewing angle of the player playing in VR using that AR technology.
Which is huge because you don't have to have a green screen, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Now, that's a custom build in a shop here in Austin, did just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
You can't, like, download it today, but it's possible. So.
Is it responsible for your movement?
Yeah, real time. I mean, there's probably a microsecond delay, but if you're watching it on your phone, it doesn't matter. As long as it's headset, you can't have that delay.
The app itself, like, zoom in and turn around, or
I mean, I'm sure, yeah, you could. Theoretically, you could. I don't know in that particular case, because again, it was kind of like a demo app that we saw. But yeah, you're building the stuff custom all the time, most of the time from scratch, so you can do it.
As far as the headsets go, is there an amount of eye strain or tiredness that you know about, like how long people are supposed to use it, what they're talking about from a health perspective?
There's no like industry standard.
Yeah.
I think just do what's comfortable, right? Do what you enjoy.
I guess one reason why I even thought of it is you were talking about people want so many screens and everything like that. So you know, okay, developer just take one headset, but is that practical to wear for 8 hours while working or something?
Probably not day one. But neither is the first day that you spend, 6 weeks on the road camping and then go sit in front of your laptop for 8 hours, you're gonna have a headache as well, right? Our bodies climatize to that stuff. When I first started kind of playing with VR, I could only, the first time I did it, 15, 20 minutes, I'm a sweaty mess, I gotta take it off and go sit down. I can now spend hours in it, and it doesn't faze me, right? Because our bodies climatize to those physical inputs we get. So,
what do you think is the most popular mobile because there's different kinds of VR right now, like standalone VR, like you just get the headset, you don't have the cables, or AR, like people using mobile phones or eyeglass that actually try to communicate with
what's your question?
So my question is what will dominate the consumer market?
AR, hands down.
AR.
Well, it's the most practical technology currently to get the most benefit out of, in my opinion. Right?
Because you're
And
not
it's most
having
accessible.
develop as much.
And you can just start to think about the easy applications that exist, right? Like I ride my bike around town all the time, and so if I can mount my phone right there, and that's not a good example. I'm trying to think about that. But I think that just one, we always have our mobile phones on us, right? Mobile-based AR is much easier to develop for than VR is pretty expensive.
You need to care about the hardware.
So you can start to do a lot of easy stuff. It's we were talking to a company, it's how many people, your mom or someone calls you, I can't figure out how to set the TV up, or I can't figure out how to use a remote control. Just point your phone at it and it'll be a big blinking arrow. Power button here, do that first. Source button here, do that second. Same thing with the TV, right? Cable one here, right? And you just point your phone at that stuff. Is it Mitsubishi? I think it's Mitsubishi has an app that comes with your new car. It'll tell you how to do maintenance on your car. You pop your hood and it'll tell you where to check the oil. It'll tell you how to change the tire. It'll tell you, you just point it in the car and it just tells you in real time through your phone's camera what to go do. And so there's so many practical applications like that, and everybody has a mobile device. By the end of this year, I think they said there's going to be 2.4 billion active smartphones on mobile networks by the end of 2017. That's a shit load.
Opportunities, right? Yeah, great.
And there's a lack, people claim there's a lack of content in the space. You have all these big players out there. HTC, Vive is what they just sold for $2 billion to Google last week. Well, they didn't sell their VR as a business. You have Google, all these major players that are investing in the hardware and the software and all of that. Nobody's building content, right? So it's a huge opportunity for one-man shops or big agencies that want to start a little side thing to just start turning out the content, right? And it can be simple stuff. There's a company in town called Banjo that built a great app. All it does is measure shit in AR. You can now I used to build homes and get on your hands and knees and measure all the baseboard in this room if you want to redo the trim, which is every time you redo flooring in a house. That sucks, right? Now you just walk around with your iPhone and anytime you see a corner, you just tap and you walk around the room. It'll tell you within a few inches of accuracy how big this room is, what trim you need, all just through your iPhone, right? Super practical application. Anyone with an iPhone 6S or newer can use that starting today.
Perfect.
So currently, yes. iPhone, but you have to have it with a special chip in it. And so the iPhone 6S and newer will work with AR Kit. AR Core, which is Androids, is supposed to be, I think there's early access. We've been trying to get it, we haven't got it yet. That will be by Christmas at the latest. It'll be the same thing. Anything probably S8 or that Galaxy kind of that newer version of phones and up will be completely native with it.
They're working now with the Pixel 2.
Yeah, Pixel 2. Now that's certain.
Yeah, but with the newest one.
So to take that a level deeper though, that's markerless AR. So marker-based AR. So if we give the computer something to read, if you noticed in our screenshot for the app we built, the guy has a quarter in his hand, right? We gave the computer a reference point. So anyone in North America with an iPhone, any smartphone can use that. Now we can tell the camera, hey, there's a quarter in the person's hand. We know it's exactly 24 millimeters across. The computer sees that one time, and now we can extrapolate everything else off of that one measurement. What's AR Core and AR Kit is cool, you don't have to have a marker anymore. And so you can just, as long as you show the phone space, it can calculate everything else. And it continues, it's called SLAM-based computing. It continues to do that at a very high rate as you're moving around. And it's continuously calculating constantly. So you can do AR on any device now, but it's very simple. IKEA has two. So IKEA has a slam-based system, which is for the new phones, which it says, hey, move your phone around the room, and then it just automatically sizes the furniture so it scales properly. So if you drag the chair from here over there, it shrinks automatically. Right? It's able to do that pretty accurately. The older version of the app, you have to like scale it yourself. So you have to kind of judge, like, is this going to fit in my nook or not? With the new iPhones, it does it automatically, and the new iPads. Does that make sense? So they built kind of a tiered software.
The measuring app that you're talking about, does it measure anything? So like furniture as
Flat
well?
surfaces.
Okay.
Flat surfaces. It's called Planer. And so I think you can download it. Planer spelled plain. Right? Take out the vowels, right? So if you do that, take out the vowels.